Hello everybody, this is Stephen Howson. This is the Warm Down podcast and this is sponsored by BetBull as usual. Now, on Wednesday last week we put on an ACCA, didn't we? And do you know what? It went pretty well. We had Everton to beat Watford, and they did. We had Tottenham to beat United, and they did, and we'll talk about that a little bit later with Boultwood. We had Real Madrid to beat Sevilla, and they did. We had Fiorentina to beat Lazio, and they did. And then we had Leipzig and Bayern Munich to draw. And are you fucking kidding me? With a 95th minute winner for Bayern Munich? Oh my days. Do you know what? I thought it was absolutely smashed it. It was 21-1, and then we got the odds boosted to 26-1. We had a diver on it. That would have been an absolutely fucking banging one, wouldn't it? But that wasn't the case. So make sure you check out BetBull, hit the link below, and any bet that we put on this week, if you follow our bet, you get a free bet on the last weekend of the Premier League season. We'll be putting our bets on the podcast with Ben on Thursday, so make sure you check that out and see what bets aren't going to win this weekend. But if you follow him, you get a free one, so it's happy days, isn't it? Anyway, let's get into today's podcast. And today I am joined by, and I don't know why I booked this in because I knew he wasn't going to win this game, so I'm pretty much putting myself through this torture. Adam Boultwood, my mate, off the front three, and he also works with Spencer FC, and I'm sure we're going to ask him about that a little bit later on. So, Adam, talk to me.
Mate, it's a pleasure to be here after that. So, yeah, good time to come on the show.
What time did you get away from the lane last night? Because I was watching you on Instagram milking the shit out of it.
Yeah, they did the whole sort of presentation after the game. There was a pitch invasion as well, straight after the final whistle. I think some of the players got mobbed, so it took them a while to clear that. I think I got out at like 8 or something like that in the end, maybe at 8, half 8 sort of thing. So, yeah, it wasn't too bad. It was good fun in the end. It was a great occasion. I think the result was almost second to the occasion itself. I think everyone thought Spurs were going to win. I think Man United sort of tried to make a game at the end, maybe. There's a little bit of nerves there, but no, a comfortable win in the end. And yeah, great day for a Spurs fan.
You're moving about 70 metres, aren't you, in the grand scheme of things?
Roughly, yeah. When you come out of the ground now, you can sort of see it all being built around. But, you know, who knows? It's not going to be called White Hart Lane, probably. It's going to be called, what is it, the Nike Stadium or something like that. So although we're not moving off the site, which everyone's very happy about, it is sort of, you're sort of losing the history almost of that specific stadium. I mean, there were people on the pitch yesterday, they were like ripping up patches of grass and stuff like that, which is quite interesting to see. But no, I think it was more of a celebration of the history of the club. Sort of looking back at all the great players who came out on the pitch, all the great goals and great moments, but also there was definitely a sense of looking to the future, a sense of optimism about that. I think for many Spurs fans, you know, there's a feeling that the best days are yet to come. I think this team that were on the pitch yesterday, one of the best Spurs teams ever, I think. So, yeah, very exciting times.
Did you pinch your own seat?
No, I didn't pinch my seat. I haven't got a season ticket. I can't get a season ticket for one, so it wouldn't be my seat that I'm pinching. I'd be ripping out someone else's seat. But no, that's West Ham, mate. That's not Spurs.
No, it's not just West Ham. That's everybody. Atletico Madrid did it last week.
Rips their seats
with a game to go.
Yeah, don't know about that. Yeah, where they're going to sit next week, we'll see.
I think I'd definitely do that at Old Trafford if it was us. I know loads of people. I'd know City fans who did it when Main Road closed. Yeah, I think you got to take your own seat with you.
What are you going to do with it? Just hang it on the wall? You hang it behind you there?
Yeah, I think that's what people do. Yeah. Well, almost a perfect segue. Spencer did the same, didn't he? He pinched his seat.
He has got a seat on his set. Yeah, he's got that behind him. Yeah, yeah. It's an interesting one. I would have felt a bit guilty ripping out someone else's seat there. It would have been a bit difficult, I think. I didn't see anyone else ripping out seats. I think, you know, it wasn't a done thing yesterday.
Fair enough. All right. So let us know what you're doing with Spencer. And you're working with Spencer. What is it you do?
Yeah. So official title is producer. So helping him make some of the videos he's doing. I think, you know, I think he is one of the best sort of people in this whole space we're in on YouTube of football. I think he's someone who was ahead of the curve a long time ago because he originally was obviously working with Copa 90, became a FIFA player and sort of launched his own channel out of that. Started with a lot of sort of FIFA content, which I think was really popular and did really well. And he did it really well as well. I think that was the thing he did. He did stuff other people were doing, but better than them. And therefore, he got a big following out of that. He's obviously but the Wembley Cup was one of the biggest sort of shows, biggest ideas in football ever on YouTube. It was incredibly well done. So I think now he's looking to sort of take things to the next level. And obviously, you need more sort of people to help do that. So, you know, he's doing the Hashtag Academy series now, which obviously for his team, Hashtag United, which I think only you launched a year ago, which is crazy to think about. And it's already come so far. Looking for sort of a brand new player, a member of the audience really to sort of be on the team. So we've done a whole sort of process to get it down to the final two now. I think that's out in the public, isn't it? Who the final two are? Yeah, Jack Durkin and Scott Pollock. So we're sort of,
hope so.
yeah, yeah. I was just thinking I might have just bought the whole thing. So yeah, we'll see who's going to win out of that. I think that's been a really exciting series. There's some really cool stuff coming up. #United as well. Some really big games coming up.
Well, I got an email the other day off Umbro. I'm subscribed to Umbro. I must have bought something off Umbro, and you get an email through when there's a kit launch or anything like that. And they emailed me the other day, and it was #United, and I went, I was sat in the full-time Devils office, and I went, fuck it, look at that. How mad's this? Like,
it's crazy.
It's Sunday League level, isn't it? I don't think I'm putting it down when I say that, but it's a Sunday League team that's getting more views than Champions League teams. It's absolutely mental, isn't it?
But I think that's what's so incredible about it. Like I'm saying, it only launched, I think, a year ago. I think when I was at TFR, we played, it wasn't even #United then, we were playing an 11-a-side game against
Spencer
I think
FC.
he called it Spencer FC, yeah. And after that, that's when they sort of launched #United. So it was only a year ago, I think they were doing that. Wow. And to come that far, to have an official kit deal with Umbro, the previous kit was like one of the ones off the shelf. It was like a yellow and blue thing, just had their branding on it. This is like a bespoke design kit by Umbro. They've got home kits, away kits, third kits they've got.
And
it's
going to sell out, innit? I guarantee it sells out.
100%. But I think that's part of what makes it so special. I think there is a sense with a lot of football fans, people our age, we sort of feel a little bit alienated by the game in some ways. It's sort of spun out of control. It's all about the money and everything, and you sort of feel further away from your club and your players than ever in some respects. Whereas I think for a lot of young fans, someone like Spencer who's doing his own thing on the side that were #United, there is that sense that they can communicate with all the players. They can sort of talk to them on Twitter and Instagram, whatever it is. I think there's a sense of Spencer's these kids' mates in many ways, and I think all the players are like that as well, which I think is something different from what football is. So I think it's a really unique thing that he's done and put together, and I think it's a really cool thing that he's doing. So I'm happy to help in any way I can.
It's a massively interesting story. I showed my dad, I can't remember which one of the games it was, but I was showing my dad one of it. My dad was like mind blown between that and the Wembley Cup stuff. The Wembley Cup, the views and the fact that it's held at Wembley is a fucking massive coup for, and it's a massive endorsement for what we're all doing. We're all doing different shit on YouTube in the football sort of world, aren't we? But it's a massive endorsement for what everybody's doing when someone in the industry does something of the level of the Wembley Cup, or like you said, he's getting kit deals for hashtag and this, that, and the other. And
trying to explain it to people is tough. People who don't, aren't like watching YouTube or don't really understand it, are saying, "Oh yeah, I'm working with a guy who films his own amateur football team, and they do like 500,000 views per episode,
and plays like, FIFA, and they're like,
they're like, what's going on here?" But it's crazy. I mean, not even the kit deals, but we recently went to America. They did like a whole tour. They were in Atlanta. They were in New York, playing Atlanta United, obviously MLS expansion franchise there, which is really cool. Played New York City FC, the staff team. It's kind of just insane, the sort of opportunities he gets. But I think he's definitely earned that, and he deserves it based on, he's doing things better than, big companies are doing. I used to work for TFR. Fremantle is a big company, and Spencer's he's doing stuff for young football fans better than big companies ever could, really. So it's all credit to him.
But I have to say, and I don't hold back in this any slight way whatsoever, since you left TFR, it's become less and less of a football-orientated channel. It's now just fucking banter, and it does my head in, if I'm being
It's become different. I think it's a really difficult area in YouTube where, no one 100% knows exactly what they're doing in terms of the rules. It's growing and changing every day, every week. It's all different. So I think the channels have to change and grow with that. I'm sure your own channel, if you looked at the first video, it's completely different from what you're doing now. And I think you need to evolve and change. I think TFR has changed into something different from what originally. Yeah. So I think TFR has changed into, when I first started working there to help start, it was all about football fans and the conversation. It was all about discussion and debate. And I think they realised that actually there was sort of there's almost like a gap for like comedy and, like you say, banter and all that sort of stuff. So doing really well at the moment. So I think it's great that sort of change.
The space is there for a genuine football channel that does football though for the fans. I mean,
I think
one of my frustrations is that why don't we have people? I mean, obviously we do fan cams at Full Time Devils. Why don't they just find whichever the game Super Sunday is and go out and cover it. Why don't TFR Live in the summer over the Euros was fucking brilliant. It had a cult following. We had guys pouring yogurts over their head. Like, it was fucking amazing. And then it just stopped. And you think, if we'd have done that every Saturday, like literally just took on Sky's Soccer Saturday with all them clowns in suits shouting and screaming off camera, apart from Chris Kamara, they've got no personality in them whatsoever. And I think if TFR had took that on and kept the core of the football, I think it would have been on 1 million by now. I think it would have been fucking cruising. I think it would have been doing fantastic, and it would have had a massive cult following of weirdos pouring things on themselves. And and it could still been banter, but it could have been football centric, you know.
Yeah, I think there's something missing there for a lot of football fans. Like I don't love the coverage on Sky Sports. I think BT's getting better. I think BT's pretty good in terms of their analysis stuff. Match of the Day is getting better, but it's all a bit, like you're saying, it's guys in their suits. It's all ex-pros who've got their own biases and their own sort of loyalties almost. I think people like you and people like Robbie from Arsenal Fan TV, they're the sort of people want to see now, and you want to hear their opinions. So I definitely think there's something missing almost, where you can sort of hear people, get people involved. I mean, on TFR we used to do that sort of call-in show where we'd have we did it on Mondays or Sundays. There's like fans calling in every Sunday on Skype sort of thing, giving their opinion, asking their questions. That was a really fun show. I thought that actually sort of got the audience involved a little bit more, because sometimes it does feel like we're talking at people. I think there needs to be more effort to get people involved in the conversation, really, which is what it should all be about.
And that's what BT are doing it right. BT are involved.
I'm sure they still
fans. They're involved
before,
in the fan channels. They're involved in all the social media side stuff. I think BT certainly miles ahead of Sky, but I also think BT needed to do something like that, because Sky is the establishment.
Just apart,
I think BBC with Match of the Day and Sky with their coverage they're comfortable, if a little bit safe in the way they do it. And I think BT as the new guy with paying crazy sums for the rights that they've had to pay with, not the biggest viewership in the world, they needed to pull some of the stops out. And I think getting fans on board was one way of doing that, although I don't think hiring Steve McManaman was a good option for doing that.
Never is. It's interesting though, not to do too much industry like chat or something, but Sky now, like you're saying, they're trying to appeal to that young audience. They just bought the guys I used to work for, which is Football Daily, which is obviously one of the biggest football channels on YouTube now. I think they're on just over 1 million maybe. Sky's gone and bought that channel because they know that's where the young audience is. They know there's something there on YouTube, there's something there in the sort of digital space. And
I didn't know they'd done that, but I did see them on Soccer AM's Instagram yesterday, so that'd be why then. Yeah.
So Sky bought Football Daily, so there you go. So it's all sort of mad how it's all sort of changed in the last sort of 5 years that I've been around. So yeah, it's pretty.
Maybe Sky will actually start bothering their ass with a little bit more fan interaction. Although saying that, the in off the bar stuff was pretty cool, and I hope they continue that on Friday.
Yeah, I enjoyed that actually. Yeah, were they doing that on? Was it Friday Night Football?
Friday Night Football. Yeah. It makes sense, doesn't it? Friday night in the pub. It makes
got a cheeky spot on there. I enjoyed that. Yeah, enjoyed that. Yeah,
anyway, right, let's get back to this fucking autopsy of a game yesterday, because in fact, you know what? I think yesterday's game doesn't really warrant analysing from anyone.
Yeah, it was kind of, I don't know, it was kind of expected. Yeah. I'd put money on, what did I put money on? 2-0 to Spurs. I was thinking it's going to be 2-0 to Spurs. Spurs are pretty comfortable, I think. Jose Mourinho was expected to rest certain players. I don't think that lineup that he put out, I think the Spurs fans were very confident after they saw the team Mourinho was going for. Wayne Rooney in there, Michael Carrick in the middle. Is it Twanzebe as well? I know he was good against Arsenal.
Mate, it was better than I thought it'd be, the lineup that we actually put out.
What did you make of Manchester United's performance then? Because it sort of felt like, Spurs were more youthful, they're more dynamic, and we sort of just overpowered Manchester United in the end.
Smalling and Jones at centre-half gives me palpitations. United without Herrera and Pogba offers nothing in the midfield. We just get ran through, as we saw. Yeah. And I think we do need a striker. I think Rashford's all right filling in. I mean, all right. And I think even if he comes off the bench or is the third option, second option next season, he's still going to get 30 games. That's good enough for his development at the age that he's at. But I think we need a lead-the-line striker. And I think I've said this a few times now over the last few weeks, that I think Jose Mourinho did an excellent job analysing what he needed at the start of the season. And I think he misjudged what Wayne Rooney could offer. And I think when he went, right, okay,
not much.
I've got 4 strikers, right? I bring Zlatan in. I've already got Wayne Rooney, because obviously Mourinho had tried to sign Rooney, so I think he had a picture that he thought Rooney fulfilled. And then I've got Marshall, who was leading scorer last year, and I've got this kid Rashford. Okay, so there's my team. So there's my strikers even. That should be good enough to get the goals that United need to get this season. Sound. Okay. And then when he gets here, actually, Marshall's coming off a little bit of poor form on the back of the Euros. Rashford didn't score anything like he scored last year, but I think that was more realistic for his development in terms of where he's at as a player. So I got no problem with that. He's playing well, but he's not getting in the goal-scoring opportunities. His finishing isn't bad. He's just not getting in those places to take those shots, especially when he's out wide. And then Wayne Rooney wasn't Wayne Rooney of 3-4 years ago, and he really isn't. He's declined significantly. So I think that if he'd have had...
I think Mourinho was surprised by how much he had to rely on Zlatan, who, as good as he is
I think so, 35? Because I think if he could have, Wayne Rooney would have been involved a hell of a lot more. And a lot of those draws, I mean, even the margins were so tight prior to these last two games and arguably the Swansea game where we threw it away. If we'd have just got over the line in a couple of those draws prior to that, we wouldn't even be thinking about where we are in the league. We'd have been possibly, putting in a title challenge. And I think that's the margin. Mourinho's improved us defensively. He's improved our chance creation. He's improved how many chances we get in that final third. He's improved how much we move the ball in that final third. All tangible things that you can point to stats and say, that got improved, that got improved, that got improved. The only one that's declined is the finishing, and ultimately that's not on the manager. I think you have to put that on the players. So
do you think he's done? I'd say he's done well, but I question whether he's done well enough based on the resources that he's got. Yes, I know injuries sort of have played their own part in that, but in terms of the squad Manchester United got, I feel like a push for the top four. It shouldn't have been at the expense of the Europa League. I understand at this point of the season now he's sort of blaming the injuries and all that sort of stuff, but surely the top four should have been something they could have been going for as well.
I always said it. I didn't ever want to focus because when you focus on one, you eliminate the possibility of doing well in something else. And I always thought if we was going to do any focusing, it should have been on the league. The league should have been where we go for it because that's our bread and butter. And if you lose or draw 2 games on the bounce in the league, doesn't matter. If you lose or draw 2 games in a knockout competition, that's you fucking later. See you next year. So I wanted to see United focus on the league a little bit, and ultimately the length of time that you spend in a knockout competition like the Europa League, the detrimental effect that you see on your league form, and we did see a detrimental effect. I do hold Mourinho accountable. I don't like the word blame. I don't like that as a word. I don't think he's to blame for any of this, but I hold him accountable for certain decisions that he's made. Earlier in the season, we was getting loads of shit for saying he needs to rotate Zlatan because he was looking tired at times. And I don't think that lack of rotation led to his injury, but ultimately his form did dip prior to the injury.
I just think overall he's so cautious. I felt like, maybe yesterday's an exception, but definitely the game against Arsenal, it felt like he almost threw the game. And I feel like for Manchester United, who are, if people of our age, are the biggest club in England and the most successful club in England, there's a certain, there used to be a certain aura around them. That would have been unthinkable like a few years ago. Whereas now it's kind of like, Jose Mourinho, one of the best managers of all time, I think it's fair to say as well. Is that really something fitting of him and Manchester United?
No, it's not. But we're not in an ideal situation or scenario at the moment, are we? People accuse United fans of being massively arrogant. Well, when we're actually a little bit more humble and realistic in where we are as a football club and as a team at the moment, people say, and you wouldn't have accepted that years ago. Well, we're not the team we was years ago. The situation is different. It's a different team. It's a different set of circumstances. The job in front of Mourinho is massive. And I think he is the right guy, ultimately. Yes, he's been overcautious, but you know what? We got slapped at Chelsea earlier this season, and it wasn't that much of a slapping. When you think that this season United have needed 11 shots on goal to score a single goal, Chelsea was 4-0 up after 4 shots against us. So if you put it against the parameters of that, we got a 0-0 at home to Burnley with 37 shots. So That was a slapping, but the scoreline says otherwise. And the Chelsea game was similar to that. And I think it's not been an ideal thing, but there's been issues that I don't think Mourinho can be held to blame for. The accountability thing is, I think that he got rid of Memphis, arguably, without really giving him a chance. Schneiderlin, definitely without giving him a chance. And Schweinsteiger, when those three players would absolutely have played in the last couple of weeks and absolutely have done something. And yeah, he's got massively unlucky with the dislocated shoulder to Fosu Mensah, because he would have played. You seen how he bullied you last year in like his second or third ever Premier League game. He's been unlucky with an injury to Zlatan. Pogba's father dying wasn't really going to affect this weekend, I don't think, either way, because I wouldn't have expected him to start. But I think the expectation level on Pogba, I think Pogba's been fine. And I think people are looking at where United are in a table and trying to correlate with that with what Pogba's done. Pogba's stats from this season are exactly the same, if not better, than his season last year with Juventus, where he ended up in the FIFA Pro World 11. The only difference is his assists are lower, but he's created more chances. He created 54 chances at Juventus last year. He's created 55 at United this year, but he's only got a third or a quarter of the assists. And that's because some other fucker at the other end of his pass isn't finishing it.
Where do you think Man United are going to go next season? Because I think it's really interesting that, on one hand, people say Manchester United have got the most expensive squad in the world. On the other hand, I feel that the club's been run shambolically ever since Sir Alex Ferguson left. These different managers coming in, it all feels very disjointed. These sort of almost panic buys, big money signings coming in to try and, paper over the cracks. Mourinho's dealing with that situation now, in effect. But in terms of, there seems to be a certain short-termism about Manchester United. They're very desperate to get back into the top four, to get back to challenging for the title.
I think from the fans and from the board's point of view, that's true. But I don't think you can say Mourinho's signings were short-termism. I think he got Zlatan on a free because Zlatan was available on a free. But Paul Pogba was 23, Bailly was 23, Mkhitaryan's still young.
I mean the last sort of 3 years as a whole. There seems to be this...
well, you've had a turnover of managers, and that's going to lead to that. I think...
What's next then? Because, Jose Mourinho is someone in the last few years who hasn't stayed at a club long term. He tends to leave after 2-3 seasons when it implodes.
That was always my issue with him, is that I don't know what he's going to do for the long term. I don't know if he can trust the youth. I hope Tuanzebe's performances are strengthening his bottle to play youth a little bit. I hope Rashford's had an effect on how he can trust young players. Because there's more coming through too. Fosu Mensah's definitely one, but there's more behind him as well that deserve the opportunity and deserve minutes. And I think that last year Louis van Gaal didn't start turning to the youth until we had the injury problem, and then he turned to them and they worked. Mourinho could arguably have turned to them a little earlier himself and might have found the same sort of success Van Gaal did.
I'm thinking even longer term, a bigger picture. As a Spurs fan, like I was saying before, it's a great time to be a Spurs fan. Moving into this new stadium, we've got this fantastic manager, Mauricio Pochettino, who's managed to sort of click everything into place. We've got this really promising young squad coming through. There's players coming through behind that. You see like Josh Onomah, Mark Edwards. We know there's talent there. So for the next sort of 2 to 3 to 5 years, just sort of thinking, I can see a really clear picture of where this club's going. It's amazing. For the first time ever in my life, Spurs are actually potentially going to challenge for
How long has Pochettino been there?
He's been there, what is it now, 3 seasons?
What was his first finish?
I think it was it 5th or 6th, I think it was in that first season.
Okay, and that was on the back of, who did he replace?
Big Tactics Tim.
Oh, fuck.
That's who he came in for. But I mean, what I'm trying to say
that was obviously a clear improvement.
in terms of, that's, of course. But, you can sort of see where the club's going, and it's very refreshing as a Spurs fan. Oh my God, this is the project, this is the sort of long-term goals. Are you confident in the club and the people running the club that there is a plan, there's a projection for Manchester United, or do you think it's kind of just 1-2 years at a time? Guys, we just need to get back in the top 4. Can we just get back up there?
I think we lack a football man. I'd love to see a director of football come in and have some sort of strategy, because there's things that's going on with the academy and the youth teams that I don't like the sound of, despite the fact that we're still outproducing every team in England and all but 2 teams in Europe. The club is run a little bit by Woodward as a business, and I think commercial interests sometimes usurp football interests, which is why I would love to see a director of football in there that can argue the case and maybe even be a bigger picture guy, because Jose Mourinho can't think bigger picture, because look at the reaction from the media if United finish outside the top 4, right? And I agree, that's probably right, but that was the minimum expectation. But if he gets Champions League football, then he's won 2 trophies. He's achieved the minimum level of expectation, despite the fact that he's had bad luck with injuries. He's won more than Pochettino's won this year. He's won more than Guardiola has won this year. He's won more than Klopp has won this year. The only manager that can hold him close is Conte, who's come in with no European football that he's had to deal with. So I think we have to look at this league as a whole, and you can't compare this season to last season, this season to 3 seasons ago. You can only compare this season to this season. And this season, there's some serious talent in terms of footballers. There's some serious talent in terms of managers. Look where the fucking champions are finished, or are going to finish. You know what I mean? Like, this is a crazy season, and I think it's a war of attrition. I think that's some of these teams at the top have to ride it out without fucking sacking the guy. And I think I had an attitude with Leicester for what they did, sacking the manager that's won them something when they've won nothing in their history. I think that's a joke. It's an absolute disgrace. He should have been able to take them down to the fucking conference if he wanted and bring them back up.
Yeah.
He should have been allowed that time.
Maybe Ranieri should have.
I agree, this Spurs team looks good. But ultimately, you've not won anything at the moment. You've not really challenged for winning anything at the moment.
No, but I think...
And can you see you challenging with... Can you see this Spurs team being a semi-final Champions League team that wins back-to-back titles?
You're talking about expectations. You're talking about the expectation on Manchester United. I think you have to factor that in when you're talking about Spurs, because at the start of the season, for me, I was like, wow, it's going to be really tough to finish in the top 4 again. You've got Guardiola coming in, you've got Mourinho coming in, Klopp's going to be there for another season. It's going to be so tough to finish in that top 4. And yet, having wasted all that money on Moussa Sissoko and Vincent Janssen, pretty much with the same team from last season, we've managed to finish in second place, something that we've never done before in the Premier League. I think there's been clear improvement in terms of Pochettino as a manager. A lot of people criticised him last year for not having a plan B. It was always a 4-2-3-1. There never seemed to be a change in system, a change in the way he was approaching the games. Now, he switched that 3 at the back, be it out of necessity, be it out of inspired by Conte almost at the start of the season. I think he's showing more flexibility within games as well. Spurs are a lot more fluid in game situations. So I think when you look at the expectations for Spurs at the start of the season and you look back now, I think it's easy for a lot of fans to sort of almost snipe and sort of try and beat the stick with, oh, you've won the putting on pressure trophy, oh, you've won nothing. I think at the end of the day, we finished above Arsenal, I should say, for the first time in 22 years? First time since I can remember for sure. I think there's markers of progress for Mauricio Pochettino and this team. I think next season is going to be the key in terms of winning silver and actually getting something tangible in, be it an FA Cup, which would have absolutely loved to win this season, be it progressing to, say, the knockout stages of the Champions League and getting further into that competition, which I think would be a great achievement, and keeping up the consistency from the last 2 seasons. I know people like to sort of have a joke about how Spurs finished third in a 2-horse race last season, but I think, realistically, Spurs have been the most likely title challengers in the last few years. Yeah, and
I am just playing devil's advocate to an extent.
No, of course.
Like, you haven't achieved anything technically. I mean, there's been progression in terms of league finishes. You finished inside the top 4, and then you finished inside the top 2.
But I think those are achieved. I know they're not silverware, which is, like I'm saying, the stick people like to be with, but they are achievements in their own right. And I think if you look at the wage bill, which I think is a good reflection of where a team should be, Spurs are 6th, I think. So in terms of the money the squad we're assembling there, I think we're overachieving, if anything. So I think it's harsh to say, Spurs bottled it, Spurs underachieved. If anything, Spurs made an actual title race this season. Manchester City, I think, have failed somewhat this season in their season.
I don't think you can say somewhat. I think you can say they fucking completely failed, considering that this guy had a blue carpet rolled out for him. They'd fucking...
This is I was reading
an article saying that the Premier League's going to need to adapt to him rather than the other way around, and you think...
I think there are big expectations on Guardiola, big pressure. I'm someone who thought he was going to come in and absolutely walk the league. And I know you retweeted that tweet to sort of got a lot of stick for that on Twitter. But I thought he was going to come in and really not revolutionise Premier League, but I think he was going to succeed, not easily. But I think as with Manchester United, but based on what he's done in previous
but if you look at what those clubs did before him and after him, there wasn't a spike.
But this is why I think. But this is why I think you have to. I made a mistake, and other people would have made a mistake in analysing Guardiola and not looking at the bigger context of, just like I'm saying about Jose Mourinho. Jose Mourinho has inherited a certain situation, And although, you might argue that he's not done as well as he could this season, I think he's still inherited a situation which was difficult. Like I'm saying, it's very disjointed, very short-termism. I think at Manchester City as well, although there is this talk of the big project, and obviously they've got this fantastic academy and all these facilities, I think when you actually look at the Manchester City team, is that good enough to win the Premier League?
Has he? Yeah, of course it is. Fucking hell, you're kidding me. Are you actually kidding me?
Look at those defenders that he's got then. Are you telling me that you're good enough to win the Premier League?
Otamendi was one of the most sought-after defenders in world football
still there.
When he signed
This is the thing I'm saying.
John Stones was getting wanked off left, right and centre.
Vincent Kompany's
I felt like he decides to play centre mids in defence or every fucker as a fullback.
But I think, as with Mourinho and Guardiola next season, once they get their sort of players in, they have a bit more time to get their sort of squad together, I think you'll see an improvement from them. I think we almost expected too much, maybe Guardiola and Mourinho, based on the context of what they're inheriting. But I know, I'm sure Mourinho and Manchester United are going to throw a lot of money at the transfer market this summer, the same for Manchester City. So I think that'll be, if they don't succeed next season, that'll almost be more damning on them with more time.
All I want is City fans to admit that Pellegrini was better than Guardiola.
In terms of
he went further in the Champions League. He won them a title. He finished last season with a cup. He's finished higher and achieved more and got further progression in every aspect, despite the fact that they spent more than United in the summer, and people tend to forget that. They spent more than Manchester United did in the summer. This is supposedly the greatest manager that's ever fucking pissed into a toilet. This is the expectation. I think there was a question. All the rest of it from Guardiola. The way some City fans was going on, the amount of people that said, I had loads of fun retweeting, not just your tweet, but there was dozens of people that had tweeted that Guardiola and City was going to fucking moonwalk everything. And again,
Are you one of those people then this season that makes you doubt his? I just feel like people are extrapolating this season. They're making this one season define his whole career.
The fact that he walked away on his childhood team in Barcelona made me doubt his abilities as a manager. If Ryan Giggs had come through the ranks at Manchester United, won everything there was to win as a player, taken over the B team, been given the first team job, won a treble or 2 trebles, was it that he won? He wasn't back-to-back, I know, but he won 2 trebles in 3 years or something along those lines, and then decides he needs a fucking break because it's too much. The mentality of the man is a fucking lily-livered fuckwit. He's a coward, mate. He's an absolute coward.
I think that's reading that situation completely wrong. I don't think it's fair to say he's a coward because
he's a coward.
He achieved everything he could achieve at that club. We don't know. We've never been in that situation, that pressure, that amount of intensity on you.
Ever, right? Real Madrid can do it in a couple of weeks. No one had ever won the Champions League back-to-back, right? That right there is the first thing that he should have gone for. Because winning the title in Spain, all right, you win it, they win it. You win it, they win it. So, whatever. Win a European Cup, brilliant achievement. Win 2 European Cups, brilliant achievement. Win it back-to-back, godlike status unlocked. That's what he had to do. And he had the team to do it as well. He undoubtedly had the team to do it. And when he decided that he fucking couldn't cope with the pressure of being Barcelona manager, the team he supports, then he goes somewhere else at Bayern Munich. They end up fucking hating him. He can't replicate
hate's a strong word.
Go and find out, mate. Go and speak to some Bayern Munich fans. They don't fucking like it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say hate, though. I think, that's a strong sort of characterisation of how it all sort of played out.
They grew to fucking be disgruntled with his constant same style of boring play. And then, he bottles it there to go to City, which arguably has been built for him for several years prior to him coming. There's talk that Guardiola knew he was going to City in 2012, which means that a lot of those signings, prior to the signings that he already made this summer, he had a bit of a hand in. There's talk that some of the players he was going to sign at Bayern Munich, he was like, nah, fuck it, I'll have him at City, which is just a massive, conflict of interest anyway, isn't it? But,
we don't know if that's true. I mean, I know there's sort of the reports floating around, but I don't think, if that is true, I don't think they've planned that particularly well then. I don't think they've got in the sort of signings that would help him be the best manager he could be. I mean, look at the fullbacks that they've got. Is that some sort of master plan to have Bakary Sagna and Gal Clichy still there as the first choice fullbacks? I wouldn't have thought so. So I think next season he's going to be
more than the national debt on centre halves in the last 2 years.
Yeah, and who has succeeded out of any of them? I don't think I can even name one, but I think
one of his other biggest flaws, Claudio Bravo.
Yeah,
That's his signing.
That is a big move. I think next season's going to be big for Guardiola because, as you said, at Bayern Munich, following up Jupp Heynckes, who obviously won the treble. He didn't win the Champions League there, which, as you're saying, I think a lot of Bayern Munich fans were disappointed with. Obviously, this season he hasn't achieved as much as was expected, especially after that start as well. Was it 10 games in a row they won? Everyone was sort of thinking, they are going to walk this league.
Pellegrini did last season as well.
So next season, I think once, they no doubt spend 200 million or whatever it's going to be to sort of get in certain players, get rid of some of the deadwood. You look at that squad and you think upwards of 10 players could be shifted out in that squad. Yaya Toure might stay, we don't know. But I think next season will be a big season for him in terms of, I don't want to say defining his legacy, but almost definitely defining how he's perceived in England, because football, people have got short-term memories. Barcelona seems a long time ago, be it, I think we have to admit that was one of the greatest club sides of all time. It's easy to say, Guardiola bottled it. He couldn't handle the pressure. He left. In the end of the day, Guardiola built one of the greatest sides of all time, if not the greatest side. I don't think we can necessarily diminish that achievement based on, a disappointing season this year. But as I'm saying, next year I think it's going to be potentially defining for Guardiola and Man City. We'll see.
All right, fuck the Blue 8 for Manchester. Let's talk about United and Spurs then. So, what do you see Spurs' major weakness as, and how do you see them go into the next level if they're able to next season?
The thing is, our transfer budget is going to be limited, I think, this summer.
Do you think the cost of the stadium is going to hamper you in a way that you saw with Arsenal?
I mean, Daniel Levy's come out and said encouraging things about, there's not that handbrake on the club necessarily. I think it's more about spending the money wisely. I think every club has hits and misses in the transfer market. Spurs last season had a few big misses. Moussa Sissoko is the most expensive signing in Spurs history. I don't think he necessarily justifies that tag. Vincent Janssen as well cost 17, 18 million, I think. And he hasn't really lived up to that price tag, hasn't really fulfilled the role we were expecting him to fulfill as a backup to Harry Kane. When he did come into the team, when Kane was injured, he didn't perform. We've got players like Heung-min Son on the other hand, who I think was 17 million as well, has been fantastic. Victor Wanyama, I think, was 7 million, which is incredible. I think we need to be smarter in the transfer market, and that's the only way we're going to be able to compete. Like I'm saying, Man United and Man City are going to go out this summer. They're going to splash the cash. They're going to offer huge wages. Tottenham can't compete with that. I think our highest paid player is on less than Jess Lingard at Manchester United, as I'm sure most of your viewers don't want to be reminded about. But I think for us, the challenge is going to be, like I'm saying, next season is defining in that I don't think the likes of Harry Kane are necessarily tempted to leave, but there's talk of Kyle Walker going this summer. I think next summer, if Spurs haven't achieved a certain level, like I'm saying, be it going through to knockout stages of the Champions League, be it another elevation of their current level, people like Dele Alli might start thinking, hang on, I could double my money elsewhere. I could potentially be winning trophies elsewhere. That's where the danger is going to come in. And I think the main thing is to keep Pochettino there. I think that's the number one priority, because all of the players seem to have bought into him and bought into what he's trying to do.
There's talk that Barcelona are sniffing, isn't there?
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going, apart from Kyle Walker, he's going to leave this summer. I think the team is going to stay together. The band's going to stay together, as it were. But it's about adding quality and depth to this squad that sometimes we struggle with in terms of those transfers that are just complete misses. If we're going to succeed in the Champions League next season, if we're going to succeed on multiple fronts and maintain a title challenge when we're expecting all the rivals and all the teams around us to get stronger themselves, I think it would almost be an achievement in themselves. If we can challenge for the title, maybe win a cup, go further in the Champions League, make smart signings, I think that'd be a fantastic year. So we'll see.
All at Wembley though.
Wembley's going to be difficult. I think it's going to be very difficult because yesterday, it's confirmed now, unbeaten in the Premier League at home, for the first time in the league since, was it 66 or something like that? So it became a fortress, White Hart Lane. Impossible to get beaten there practically. Wembley, we haven't had the greatest record. Obviously, in the Champions League, it was difficult this season. I think the players are going to have to adjust that very quickly. There's talk of them trying to make the pitch smaller. I think we'll see. I think that is going to be a challenge to surmount. And although it's not being made a massive deal at the moment, I think most Spurs fans are worried about it. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a wobble at the start of the season. And that's, disappointing performances and lack of form at the start of the season is something that cost us this year, really. So yeah, it's going to be tough at Wembley. It's going to be tough.
All right, we'll call it a day there. This is part 1. There is a part 2, so check that out. It'll be out later on. Or possibly tomorrow morning. So that's the Q&A. If you've asked us a question on Twitter, we're going to answer that over there. Where can everyone come and stalk you, mate?
Come and stalk me on Twitter at Adam Boultwood, and download the Front Three Football Podcast on iTunes. I'm on there with Statman Dave, Lawrence McKenna, Chris Henage, the best football podcast out there. Said one review this week.
I think you need to change the name now, because there is 4 of you on there every single week, isn't there?
Yeah, it sort of started as 3. You can't really change it now. It's just the Front Three. That's how it started. That's how it stays.
All right, thank you for watching. Make sure you go and follow Adam. I'll stick his links in the description below. Subscribe and get any of your questions and comments in, because tomorrow I've got Jimmy Conrad. So go and check that one out. See you later. Wow.